protection? What if somebody tries to mug you? What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Good? Hell no.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Check for the cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You got a riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta drag them through the streets.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Tuesday. We are live. This is PrimerTime on UCY.tv. My name is Michael, and I am not on a Project Veritas video.
My name is Nicholas, and you won't get my tax returns because I haven't filed any.
That's the way to go, man. I appreciate that sentiment. So breaking news is apparently Rachel Maddow is going to release Donald Trump's tax returns tonight. We'll see what happens. So big deal. Whatever. Like, you didn't know he was like some sort of like tax cheat anyways.
Well, the
Not
rule
like he
is,
was hiding it or anything.
I was going to say, the rule is if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Really? I mean, gee, what are you going to do? Supposed to do? I elect me. I paid extra taxes. Well, aren't you stupid?
Well, you know, the way that I look at it is those of us that actually do pay taxes and overpay because we get a big return at the end of the year, you know, we're not the people that you're concerned about. Why don't you take a look at getting some of those senators to, let go of their tax returns? You want to see what's really
What about somebody
bad.
like GM? What about somebody like GM who like pays absolutely zero taxes in the United States and has paid like zero taxes in the United States for like the last like 12 years and receives money from the government?
Or anybody like Dianne Feinstein or
or her husband Richard Bloom, and whatever. Jesus.
Exactly.
It gets tiring to think about these scumbags that are scumbaggering it all over. I mean, it's just every day is something new. Oh, by the way, Trump said pussy.
There you go. You got to think of the children. You can't say that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, that's what they're back to. I mean, look, they talk about the wiretapping and I mean, how long have we known that the NSA listens to everything? Are we supposed to believe that, like, during the election, the NSA turned off, like, Trump's line? Like, they didn't listen to that?
So in case there was ever a question, you had Michael Hayden, who was the former director of the National Security Agency. He said that anybody who believes that there is a personal right to privacy is sorely mistaken. And then you have James Comey, who says absolute privacy does not exist in this country. So, yes, folks, every single bit of anything that you transcribe onto a document and transmit digitally to somebody else, whether by email, text, whatever, yes, it is being watched. So, yeah.
And I mean, and that's actually like a really like a staggering amount of data. Because I mean, like, just excluding like text messages and WhatsApp and, Yahoo Messenger and MSN Messenger and emails and telephone calls and all that, you've got all that video game traffic that goes on because that's all recorded too.
Yeah. And not only that.
I mean, which is beyond me because I've not ever played a video game where you like talk to somebody else, over the internet. I quit playing video games long before that, but I know that there's games that have 60 kids playing that, and there's 500 of those going simultaneously for one game.
Yeah, probably. And then name the number of servers that actually exist for those games itself.
Yeah,
it's not just one game server that's hosting that much traffic. You're talking about multiple servers, trying to get as many people as I can onto that.
And that's all being recorded and monitored for keywords. So, Port Cloud, Mexico, and then bing, the light goes off, and the rest of this is monitored. Whatever.
Yeah. So hey, here's something that's not exactly breaking news, but it is it's very interesting. Do you remember a story came out of Florida a couple years ago about an individual seated inside of a movie theater during the time that the previews were being played, and he shot down the individual behind him for throwing popcorn at him, claiming that he was in fear for his life.
He was like a Florida cop, or he was like an off-duty cop, or a recently retired cop, or something. He wasn't a young guy. He was like in his probably in his early 60s, late 50s, something like that. He was somebody who should have known that you don't bust caps for somebody throwing popcorn.
Well, never mind the fact that you're inside of a dwelling. For lack of a better term, you're inside of an occupied building.
Was it buttered popcorn? Because that theater butter is like some kind of oil, and that's kind of like hard to get out.
So the latest is that the judge in the case has rejected the stand your ground defense, and has said that and I'm quoting right here, because the defendant's testimony was significantly at odds with the physical evidence and other witness testimony. This court has considerable doubts about his credibility and is not willing to come to the conclusion that these circumstances are those envisioned by the legislature when the Stand Your Ground law was enacted, end quote. So basically, I think what you've got here is probably what about 95 to 98% of gun owners themselves, that's the conclusion that we would come to ourselves, is that an individual who is getting, pelted by popcorn is not in danger of losing his life. And not only that, I think that his mental state might have contributed to a very, very, very poor decision in which to draw his gun and use lethal force.
Was it ever determined that he was inebriated or anything like that, or was he stone cold sober? Honestly,
I don't know that he wasn't.
There wasn't a whole lot of. He's a cop, or former cop.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I think he was just recently had been retired.
So they're inclined to protect their own. So like it's not uncommon for like a cop to be involved in a car accident or something. Then it comes out 3 weeks after the car accident that that cop had like a blood alcohol level of 0.42 or some shit like that. He's legally dead.
Yeah. So the individual who was shot was named Chad Olson, and what he was doing was texting his children from the movie theater while the previews were playing. Not the movie, but the previews. Curtis Reeves was the individual who had admonished him for doing so and being on his phone during the previews, and that's when Mr. Olson decided to throw popcorn at him. Mr. Reeves didn't take too kindly to that, pulled and drew his firearm, and then shot Olson next to his wife, and in the theater, shot him dead. So, this is an interesting thing. I personally believe that this guy is 100% and entirely at fault. I think this was an unjustified. Yeah, this is an unjustified killing, and he should be guilty. He should be guilty of a murder, of manslaughter at minimum, and probably first-degree murder at most.
I would have to agree. And I mean, you can't even make like a "don't bring popcorn to a gunfight" joke about this. I mean, he was texting his kids.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I have been into many movie theaters, and I have seen quite a few people that they don't necessarily even put their phone away during the entire film.
Yeah. I actually I I saw a movie in Savannah, Georgia. That was an interesting experience.
Oh, really? Tell me about
There was a lot of audience participation. Let's just put it that way.
it. Okay.
Yeah, they were screaming advice at the theater at the screen. Yeah, it was it was an eye opener.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we are in the middle of Snowmageddon 2017, and my location got a dusting of maybe a quarter inch of snow, and I took a snow day off of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. You kept the roads free for emergency vehicles, and
I did. I did not want to put myself in danger.
I think you bettered the community by staying home.
Oh, definitely. And one of those things is that as is in the summertime, whenever you're a military guy, it's the time where leases are up. You got to make a decision whether or not you're going to stay in one place. And so today was a day where we decided to get out and go look around and see what's out there. And oh my goodness, if I would have been the homeowner of the house that I visited today and I saw what the previous tenants had done, I might have had to use the stand your ground law in defense of, unloading on somebody because, oh my goodness, this house was trashed.
Well, just give me an idea on what the rent was they were asking on the
So
trash.
this is a location that's in the next county, and property values are significantly lower than where
Is it across the tracks?
No. It's not that. It's just that it's more rural. So the property values are significantly less, but the land that you actually get with the house is significantly more. Your dollar stretches quite a bit further. The house itself sat on half an acre, but just walking in, I was getting ready to take my shoes off to enter the house, as is customary, at least for me when I go to visit a new home. That as soon as I was getting ready to bend down and take my shoes off, the realtor said, "Oh, excuse me, sir, you may want to keep your shoes on here." And I was like, "Oh, that's not good."
That's a good sign right there.
Yeah, that was no bueno. And it turns out that the previous tenants, had damaged the property to such an extent that it hasn't been rented. But then again, the owner has not put a single bit of work into repairing the damage in the last 18 months. Literally, he sat on that property for 18 months, and he's been paying rent on it or paying a mortgage on it, and he hasn't done anything to repair the damage.
What does he want for rent?
So I think based on what they had the last time that he had tenants in there, I think he was charging $1,600 a month in rent for 3-bedroom, 3-bath with a finished basement. It's just a really odd layout of the house. But yeah, it was enough for us to just kind of be pissed that we took the drive out there.
Yeah, but whatever. You got to explore on a snow day.
Yeah. And by the end of the snow day, it was already 50-something degrees.
That's the best kind of snow day.
Yeah. So
right,
we got a little dusting, but other than that, it's back to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Unless the snowmageddon hits you again tonight.
Yeah, I doubt that. We may get a little bit, but nothing like what they were predicting.
You will not be that lucky. So, anyways, earlier they were speaking about, we were speaking about Maddow having Trump's tax returns, and another kind of like Trump-related issue that you and I kind of discussed for a little while earlier was they showed that since Trump has been elected, gun sales have gone down, have declined overall, but have risen amongst women and minorities.
Right. So basically, what I think this is the bottom line up front, or the prime takeaway, is that folks are no longer panic buying, believing that this Congress and this administration are going to do something to restrict their personal firearms freedom.
I have a feeling that you're correct about that, and I also think that leads to a large overstock. There's a large glut of firearms on the market, in particular polymer pistols in 9mm 40 and 380 and AR-15s.
Really? So, one of the things that I was going to think is that new gun sales, while surging among women and other minorities, I was expecting to start seeing the offloading of the panic bought firearms that folks, you know, did under the duress of the last administration, and now they're thinking that, hey, they got to go ahead and recoup some of that cash. I mean, that's what I'm looking for.
I see that, and unfortunately, they think they are going to recoup every dollar that they put into that rifle that they bought in, February of 2013, that was normally sold for $500 that they paid $1,100 for.
Yeah.
And I see that right now. Looking at the price of new AR-15s, you can, if you spend more than $700 for a brand new AR-15, that better be autographed by Jesus.
Well, yeah.
Right now, $700 will buy you an excellent quality AR-15 with top-notch parts, especially if you build one yourself. But $700 right now will buy you almost a lower end of the high-tier rifle.
Wow.
And that same rifle being sold used is quite a bit more expensive. You're looking at people still asking $1,100-$1,200 for these rifles.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that folks, we're in the last throes of winter here. We just had daylight savings. The weather is going to be on the up and up. I think, getting out of this latest series of inclement weather storm fronts.
Yeah, but do you think that whatever rise in minority purchases and women purchases, or whatever purchases that are going on right now, will be like buoyed by, say, like income tax returns, or do you think that this is like a good downturn in the market for a while, or do you think that?
Well, see, this is the thing. So we take a look at trends, right? So the trend during the Obama administration was there was a real and realized fear that the Congress, which was controlled at that time by Democrats, was going to enact legislation that punished gun owners, that made it difficult for gun owners to purchase guns of their choosing and staying within the law. You saw what happened in Connecticut and New York, where their legislatures ran bills through sessions of Congress that were closed to the public and without any support on the other side of the aisle. So yeah, that was a real fear, and it was realized in those states. What you have right now is you've had the overwhelming majority of Americans in the states that matter say to the rest of the nation, enough is enough. And hopefully with this administration, they're going to roll back the regulations and make it a little bit easier for law-abiding citizens to be able to defend themselves. And speaking of wanting to be able to defend themselves, let's talk about the 10.3 by 68 millimeter rifle round.
Let's talk about that large candlestick. That's an amazing cartridge. Okay, so this is pretty much a European-only cartridge. There's not a whole lot of American rifle offerings in this, but this is 10 by 3 or 10.3 by 68. So that is a 41 caliber, actually 41.5 caliber bullet, weighing, what did you say, 220 grains?
No, 208 grains or 13.5 grams for the bullet. Good Lord, that's huge.
And that's sitting on top of a case that is 68 millimeters long. And just for comparison, a 30-06 is 63 millimeters long. A 308 rifle is 51 millimeters long.
Right.
So
this fits into the Magnum category.
Yeah, this is an elephant stopper. This is all right. So what would you hunt with this?
Well,
aside from
so
those
the
pesky kids
advertisement.
riding their bicycles across your yard.
Yeah, so the advertisement comes from RWS, which is part of RUAG Ammo. Uh, RWS is something that is very near and dear to my heart as a Mauser shooter, an 8mm guy. RWS makes some of the best ammunition on the planet. Super consistent, very high quality control and production standards that they have. It is advertised as being able to do the job on a wide variety of game, from small game up to African buffalo. So you can take one of the big five in Africa with this thing. It's not going to have any problem taking anything else.
All right, so what do you think would happen if you fired that into a running Toyota pickup truck engine?
Oh, that engine's done. I'm going to say that engine's done, because
Give me the bullet construction of this here monstrosity.
well, that's one of the things that they have in Europe right now, and especially in Germany. They have the push to go green. So they have offerings where they actually remove the lead and they make it of the gilded metal. But they also have the different bullet profiles, and that's one of the things that.
Could you imagine that with one of those solid, or one of those machine copper Barnes bullets?
Well, yeah. So check this out. Speaking of that, the bullet offerings that they have in this caliber go from 170 grain on the light side up to 400 grains. You hit something with the 400 grain bullet, and
all right, so I'm going to guess that this bullet moves at least at a minimum of 2,500 feet per second. I'm going to guess closer to 3,200.
I mean,
feet.
look at how much powder capacity that shell casing has.
So, well, yeah. So I mean, so let's just say 400 grains at 2,500 feet per second. Oh man, that's like a Mack truck.
Yeah, well, even the one that's the most common right now for them is they call it the Tip Pro, and basically weighs 285 grains. That's the bullet. Yeah, this is being advertised as a smart Magnum.
the Magnum that saves your shoulder.
Yeah. So I think that the IWA, basically the Munich firearms industry show, happened a couple weeks ago, and RWS introduced this at IWA, and I keep up on a good bit of the shooting blogs and the shooting articles that come out of Europe. Is just something that I kind of keep up, and all the guys that I saw went and talking about this just were really impressed. They were really amazed. So
it's a monster.
Well, but see, that's the thing. Even when I was shooting larger caliber rounds, mostly the 9.3 by 62, that was considered to be big and slow. But whatever it hit, it put them down. And you're talking you're talking a full centimeter bigger, right? No, not a centimeter. You're talking. Oof.
Well, no.
Now I don't do metric very well. Yeah, I'm here. I don't do metric very well, so it's probably another full on millimeter bigger.
Well, I don't know, but yeah, we're not metric. So anyhow, yeah, that's a big old monster bullet.
It is, and I'll tell you what, if it says that it's advertised to be able to take Cape Buffalo, you better believe that thing has some stopping power.
Well, I don't believe there's a Cape Buffalo issue going on right now in the U.S.
we don't have a problem with Cape Buffaloes unless you're talking about in Ferguson.
Yeah, I was just about to say. So, did you see? They made a video regarding the
loser of the Ferguson quick draw competition.
Yeah. And I don't know.
This is called Stranger Fruit.
Stranger Fruit. Yeah, I saw the producer of it on CNN, and you couple that the release of that with
Michael, did we lose you?
Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg ended up making a rap video where he shoots a stylized Donald Trump, and
right, yeah, but that's art, man. That's art.
Yeah. It's just satire.
Yeah, it's completely satire. Never mind the fact that 8 years ago, if you would have had a individual who's on the right hand side of things, pointing a gun at a caricatured Obama with huge ears and dark skin, the Secret Service would have been beating down your door. You would have been called every bit of a racist. And now that the shoe is on the other foot, the very institutions that are charged to protect the president seem not to be very interested in doing that job.
Well, not only that, but I mean, this is a large bit of hypocrisy on the part of Snoop Dogg playing his whatever minstrel role he's occupying now, because not more than it wasn't more than a year ago.
He was Snoop Lion.
Snoop Lion and Rasta Peace, man, and give up the gats, Holmes. You don't need them no more. We're in love, man. And now he's
smoke blunts, not fools, yo.
Right. And now I actually watched the video, and I live in Texas, so I got to speak a modicum of the Ebonics. And in the video, he made an allusion to his previous charge of murder when under his real name of Calvin Broadus. He was charged with murder. What was it? It was before the year 2000, probably back in 98, 99, something like that. And he had a lot of money, had a good attorney, not guilty. Well, and he actually even made a song about it. What was it? It was called "Murder Was the Case That They Gave Me."
Yeah,
and
that was the jam back in the day.
It was, wasn't it? And in this video, he makes an allusion to how it's time to pick up the gun again after he'd done put it down years ago. And and I see this as a press for a race war, and honestly, I don't know if what they say about the numbers of gun sales being down and the actually like a rise in like minority and female voters. I don't know if that's bullshit or if that's an actual fact or an alternative fact or fake news, or if that's just more pandering to this burgeoning race war that they're trying to push.
Well, the interesting thing is, okay, so with the documentary that's being released about the Michael Brown incident, they talked a little bit at length about Michael Brown's last day on the planet, and about how he was visiting a convenience store that was known for dealing drugs. And of course, they have surveillance videos of Michael Brown going up to the counter and purchasing weed from some of the clerks, and then going back and returning the stuff or something like that. And they're trying to justify saying, oh, here it proves that he was not a violent guy. Well, that could have been one store that he visited that he didn't try to rob, or before he stood in the street and wouldn't move out of the way. The thing is such an inconsequential moment in the events of that day, that trying to go back, we're almost 3 years on now from that why? Well, there was evidence poured over from all points. And if the premise is that the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department, or whatever, the East St. Louis County, district attorney was basically remiss in his duties and didn't uncover evidence that exonerated the individual after he was dead, what are you going to change? What are you hoping to change? The law enforcement agency in the area is already under federal control. So what are you trying to accomplish here? If you're trying just to say that, his death was caused by an overzealous cop, I think that the evidence doesn't show that.
I think they're trying to do what they've been trying to do for about the past 16, 15 months is we need a race war. We need something now because honestly, I think the pedophile thing is going to bust right open.
Well, the way I look at it is we got bigger problems because Gander Mountain went out of business.
Gander Mountain went out of business. Remington is laying off people.
Yeah. So, let's
Gouger Mountain. Gouger Mountain. I can't say they don't deserve it. It was a shitty business practice. They overcharged. They had rude employees.
Yeah, certainly rude. And basically what they're going to come down to is as of late April, they will be soliciting bids for their company, in order to sell out, whether it goes to Bass Pro or somebody else. They are going to present the winning bid in bankruptcy court in early May, and then hope to close the sale of their company and their commodities by the 15th of May. Basically, what they're doing right now is they're going to shutter 32 of their 162 stores in the immediate future. Basically, that's nearly 20% of their holdings, and those stores span 26 states. So, biggest hit is Texas. Sorry all you folks in Fort Hood and Houston and Lubbock and Round Rock, San Antonio, Sugar Land, Texarkana, Waco, and West Houston. Gander Mountain is going under, and then
I know. You know what the funny thing is I know where 4 of those stores are because
I've been to a couple of them.
I've walked into each one of those and said, yeah, okay, and walked right out.
Right back out. So yeah, Alabama has 4 that they're losing. Georgia has 3 that they're losing. Illinois 3, Minnesota 3. Indiana is losing 2. North Carolina is losing 2. Wisconsin 2. New York, Tennessee, and West Virginia each losing 1.
Yeah, well, that's what you get when everybody else is selling the same rifle for, $700 and they've got it on the shelf for $950 and that's their sale price.
Yeah, certainly. And the one thing that I think, aside from the pricing, I mean, you hit it right off the bat, was horrible customer service. I'm a military guy, and I don't go out of my way looking for discounts. I don't go asking for discounts. I don't.
If somebody lied on the radio.
No, I don't. Because if somebody goes and says, "Hey, you're in uniform, we'd like to earn your business by offering you 10% off," I'll take that. But I don't go out and at first thing I ask you got a military discount? No. But when I go and talk to one of the employees, I'm like, "Hey, how is it to work with this company? I'm getting out of the military here in about a year. What is it like to work here?" And he's like, "You know what? Honestly," he's like, and he looks around the store, so I know this is going to get good. He's like, Gander Mountain's motto? I was like, no, I've only been back in the States a little while. He goes, well, it's we live outdoors. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, you know why that is? Because they don't pay us crap. I was like, okay, that's pretty good. All right, I got it. And the funny thing is, he's like, and honestly, he's like, if I were you, man, I wouldn't shop in here on any day of the week other than Monday. And I was like, why? He's like, because that's Military Monday, man. It's the only day we're going to give you a discount. He's like, other than that, our stuff is way too high priced. We've got guys in the archery department that don't know the way around a compound bow. He's like, in the fire department, the firearms department guys, he's like, we got one good guy. He's like 65 years old, and they're trying to force him to retire, and he's the only one that knows how to do a background check. I was like, whoa. Whoa.
Yeah, I can tell you from every time that I've been to, I'll tell you what, I've used Gander Mountain parking lots for transactions far more often than I've spent money in Gander Mountain.
Right.
And I'm going to give a shout out to the one that's on Katy Freeway. That's the one that I've done a whole bunch of like transactions in their parking lot.
Yeah, well, you know, surprisingly, that one is not on the list of stores that's going to get closed.
I
Unless
think
you're
that's
talking about, is that the
that's what
Houston or is that the Sugarland one or West Houston? Because
I think.
Katy is its own big suburb.
No, it's not in Katy. It's on the Katy Freeway, which is like goes through Houston. So yeah, that might be the West.
That might be the Houston or the West Houston store.
That might be Houston. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
The only reason I know where Sugarland is because their mall had a big tornado a couple years back.
Tornadoes, hurricanes, Hindus, whatever.
Yeah. So, you know, the interesting thing is I sat there and started thinking about it, you know, which big box is going to buy them up? Because really, like, the only guy left standing, you know, on a nationwide level is really Bass Pro.
Cabela's.
No, Cabela's is getting sold to Bass Pro.
No, well, they're merging. I think they're
right.
And I think
when
they're
Bass
keeping
Pro,
the Cabela's name.
they may, but when Bass Pro was the one that's footing the bill, I guess they're the ones that really came out on top.
Well, you know, the funny thing is they both have their own finance departments, right? So both retailers are also their own bank because they run their own credit card.
Right. So my question is, if you're a debtor and your creditor goes out of business, are you therefore absolved of your stuff, or does your debt get sold?
No. Your debt gets sold.
Ah.
Sold and transferred, and yeah, it gets bought, and yeah. There's
so it's like China and the United States.
Well, very much so. Very much so.
Yeah. So speaking of interesting finds, have you ever like gone through your trash and been like, oh man, I didn't mean to get rid of that?
Sometimes I've had to like actually like go look in my trash.
Well, courtesy of the Firearms blog, outside of the Cairo airport, a man rooting through the trash has found an SA-7 Grail surface-to-air missile launcher. The name of the surface-to-air missile is Estrela in Russian. The SA-7 is the NATO standardized name for it. That's an interesting thing to find right outside of an airport, wouldn't you say?
Was it, number one, was it loaded? Was it a live charged rocket?
That's interesting. It says the weapon did not appear to be loaded with a missile, according to.
So somebody just threw it out.
Yeah, it says according to Ibrahim Yusri.
Lincoln rocket.
Yeah. So yeah, you know, that's an interesting thing to find at an airport.
That's kind of scary, but you know, like that brings to mind, like, you know, how that's happened before.
Yeah,
we've seen that in other places that there's been interesting. Dog, sit down. Sorry, dog was running around. I'm sure you heard the tapping and all that, but we've seen at other airports in the Middle East that they found rockets like that, you know, in the trash. And honestly, it makes me wonder, is that a for real, or is that a, more training exercise gone wrong?
Yeah. So we have an update coming to us courtesy of our comrades at Russia Today. Rachel Maddow intends to reveal Trump's 2005 tax return document. So we are going at least 12 years back into the past.
That's right about the time when I wonder if he paid the I said pussy tax.
That may be
12 years ago. What a joke. What a joke. Well, what are they going to show, that, you know, that he donated his underwear and took massive, you know, windfall for that? Because guess what? The Clintons did the exact same thing.
Oh yeah, but you can't criticize them, man. They're out of the public eye. Can't do that. You got to leave those poor people alone.
They should be out of the public's misery, is what they should be.
I mean, they were nearly broke when they left the White House. I mean, can't you just leave them down?
Yeah, poor woman at that house in Chappaqua.
Yeah. So let's talk about Remington laying off 120 employees.
Yeah, it's an interesting item right there, and we have to look at Remington's drop in quality, and pretty much the people in the know about firearms have looked at Remington's drop in quality and have associated their buying patterns with that. And something that comes to everybody's mind when they think about the Remington drop in quality is
The
the
870 shotguns.
and they took an American standard, and it's less reliable than a Chinese import now.
Yeah, so this is gonna
so
this is
it's
gonna
a
affect
major
the,
company.
yeah.
I mean, it's a major company destroying an icon and basically killing the golden goose, because that, like, there was, if you were a red-blooded American and you wanted a shotgun, you had two choices: Mossberg 500 and Remington 870. And if you bought the Remington 870 at one time, you were just a little bit better. You were just a little bit more tactical. It cost a couple bucks more. You're a better shooter.
Yeah,
And now that's
not the
what
case
it is.
anymore. Yeah, so in 2014, Remington actually announced that it was going to open a plant in Huntsville, Alabama. So folks in Ilion, New York, where Remington had operated a plant since the early 19th century, were understandably on edge. This is one of those things. This is the great factory that's going to close, and a lot of people who depended upon Remington for a livelihood were very worried. The company is going to go down to 960 employees after the layoff, and that's just one of those things. This is about 60 miles east of Syracuse. So for those of you familiar with the geography of New York, yeah, I mean this is not in the city. This is out in upstate New York. Herkimer County.
It doesn't necessarily need to be within the city of New York, as long as it's within the state, because the SAFE Act is applicable to the entire state.
Oh, of course, yeah, yeah.
I mean, and it was seriously, it was written for the city of New York, but applicable to the entire state. And we know that there's a great big difference between upstate New York, outside of New York City. Almost completely different nation. So,
well, I mean, just like I dropped a nugget there in chat. The Remington name has really been dragged through the mud. I can remember going back as early as, I want to say it was 2009. MSNBC or NBC did an expose on Remington that was the equivalent of the Ralph Nader unsafe at any speed.
With the Remington triggers.
Right. So, going back to the bread and butter of the Remington 700, going on, I think specifically targeting the 783 model.
Remington killed the 700 series as well by putting out the shit rifles like the 710 and the 7. All those were disposable fucking rifles. They were garbage. You could not take the barrel off of them. They had shitty triggers. They were designed to fire like 400 rounds. That's not what the public wanted. So,
no, it's not. But people want to go ahead and have a firearm that's going to last. People understand the need to maintain a firearm to keep it in top condition, but people definitely don't want something that's going to be faulty, and that's a fear.
And people who want exactly what you said do not want a Remington, because aside from the problems with the 870, the call it a hit job or whatever, but I mean, I'm not going to side with the media on it, but Remington did have problems with their triggers. I mean, triggers are not like some sort of like magic or anything. They've been making them for 300 years. You go with that, and then you start looking at Remington pistols, and Remington pistols. There's more lemons that we could shake a stick at, right? So you got the R1, and now you got this new one, the RP9, that everybody who's reviewed it says it's a waste. I almost feel like they're intentionally trying to kill the brand, and that's kind of interesting, considering that it was a Freedom Group purchase and associated with Cerberus Capital, and
right.
That's a good way to kill off a company.
Yeah, well, and when you take a look at it, can you name me 3 American companies that produce shotguns?
That produce them in the United States,
or just have a shotgun line. We'll make it easy.
Well, say, do Mossberg and Maverick count as separate companies?
No, I think Maverick falls under the Mossberg line.
All right, so we're going to say Mossberg, we're going to say Remington, and then we'll say, well, Stevens, but all those,
See,
everybody. No. Henry has an American-made shotgun.
so you wouldn't think Winchester right off the bat.
No, because I don't think of Winchester shotguns. Be honest with you, I don't think much of their shotguns, since they killed the 1300.
Right. So, and they're pushing their Super X line. So they have the Super X3 and the Super X4. But you also have the SXP and then the Model 101 for an over under trap gun. So, there's options out there. I remember people talking to me and telling me, hey, that Remington 870 only wants to chew on certain kinds of ammo, whether it's steel shot or, high brass case or whatever. That's not a way to endear people to that model, as if the thing only works half the time.
Well, and that's exactly the opposite of what I tell somebody about a Mossberg or a Maverick. It eats everything. It's tough. It's reliable. It's very tolerant. It works dirty.
Yeah, and trust me, based on the way that I've seen some people handle their shotguns, they need it to be able to work dirty.
Well, yeah, and I mean, honestly, like I was talking to this about this with a friend of mine the other day. How do you clean a pump shotgun?
So the best way that I would say to do it, just remove the barrel, take the magazine tube apart so that you can clean the spring, run the cleaning kit or use your solvent down the barrel, and then just make sure that you clean the bolt face, because chances are you're not going to need to get into breaking it down any further than that. And plus you need to conserve and preserve where the grease is on the action bars to make sure that it slides frequently.
Okay, now I've taken apart a bolt action shotgun.
Okay. No, I was talking on a pump, so not necessarily.
I'm sorry. A pump action shotgun.
Yeah.
It's once you figure it out and do it once, it's not that hard. But that first time, it's intimidating, and it takes a little bit more time. Once you get good at it, you pop that thing apart in about 30 seconds. First time, it's going to take you a little bit because just pushing pins, especially if you're not used to doing something like that. Normally what I do is, and you went into far greater detail, I usually
as I am known to do.
Right. I actually just remove the barrel, push the bolt back, try and clean inside the chamber, clean the barrel, and clean the bolt face, and then lubricate the side of the bolt.
Yeah,
as best as I can. And that's it. That's what I do for a 12 gauge pump. Other people are far more strict, and other people don't clean them at all.
Well, yeah, trust me.
A pump shotgun is handy for that. I'll tell you what, that Chinese Browning Auto 5 copy, I am not taking that son of a bitch apart.
Yeah, you won't get it back together.
I may, but I don't know. I think I'm going to chop that thing down. I'm going to turn it into a little Bonnie and Clyde looking shotgun and probably paint it black. It's I don't know. That's an interesting testament to Chinese quality.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, that's one of the things. I think that here we are with no more snow on the ground, and hopefully I'll be able to go ahead and get a chance to. I don't know. I think I want to go out and take the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 out and get one of those little reactive targets and roll it on the ground and start plugging away with the 22. See how that goes. See if 22.
I think those are kind of cool. I would suggest that you buy it online versus buying it in a store. It seems to be about 2/3 cheaper online than it is in any of the big box stores.
I have one. You're talking.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking. I own the M&P 1522, but
no. I'm talking about the little reactive target thing.
Oh yeah, it's these little balls that they're the orange high visibility polymer.
Yeah, some shorter polymer. It's like octagon shaped or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I think for something like that, I'd just rather go in. No, I would rather buy one of those in the store. I don't have one of those.
Buy it online. It's 2/3 cheaper online.
Oh, okay. So, and that's one of those things that
If you want,
I
if you
would
want
really
the
like
cheap,
to.
if you want the cheap reactive targets, bottles of water or bottles, the cheap, the discount soda,
Oh
the
yeah,
stuff that they're
yeah,
getting rid of. Shoot
yeah.
those. Those are fun.
Strawberry Fanta mimics, bodily fluids.
Yeah, well, what if it's zombies you're shooting? You're gonna have to drink like lime Fanta.
Yeah, well, you can get either the lime or the pineapple Fanta. You can do either
Pineapple.
of those.
Pineapple indicates that you were shooting at our Chinese overlords.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to be able to shoot next to somebody that has the Remington. What was it? Remington has a couple bolt action 22s. I'd like to see maybe somebody break out a Ruger 1022. But what I really want to see, I want to see somebody shoot the Mossberg 715T.
You know what? The Mossberg 715T is kind of a lumpy pile of crap and overdressed up. But if you get the very, very basic 715 and put a 715T magazine, which they will interchange, that's actually a fairly capable rifle for fairly cheap.
Yeah.
But
that's one of those things that it's
one of those rifles
I don't,
that drives me nuts. That 715T was during the Sandy Hook and post that era. People were trying to like pass those rifles off as AR-15s.
Yeah.
And honestly, they work, but it's a disposable rifle again. It's got a low entry point and it's meant to be used up.
Yeah, it's coming in, on the Cabela's page, comes in at an offering of $319, while the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 comes in at $429.
That's way too much for both of them.
Oh, of course. But if it gets you up and shooting,
that's Cabela's. You look at Buds and it's going to be significantly cheaper than Cabela's. But
yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Mike, we got to go ahead and hit some firearm safety.
That's it. All right. So rule number 1: every firearm is loaded until you visually and physically inspect and ensure that it is unloaded. Rule number 2: keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction. Know what is beyond your target, or know where the muzzle is pointed at all times. Rule number 3: know what your target is and know what's beyond your target at all times. And the most important rule I can't stress enough, is keep the booger hook off the bang switch until you're ready to discharge the weapon. Haven't read anything about negligent discharges in the past week or so sort of
have not. So Rachel Maddow is trying to release this 2005 tax return. Trump paid a higher tax rate at 25% than MSNBC Comcast, which owns Rachel Maddow's show, and higher than Obama at 19%. So he, for a grand total of $38 million tax on $150 million income. Oh, I think she done messed up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's for those of us that don't do math real well, that's a little bit more than 1/5 of his entire income. 20%,
That kind of shoots their narrative down.
Yeah. But do you think she's going to cry like she did on election night?
Well, no, because she did this to herself.
Yeah, well, that's no bueno.
Well, I'm telling you, I think I really feel that every day we creep closer and closer to the inevitable civil war in this country, and I think we got robots on the way too.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing that I think is that the American voter, who just a few years ago people were counting on the stupidity of, the American voter ain't going to sit for that. And when it comes to these members of Congress that do not want to go along with the president on his chosen path of resetting the American course, be careful. Don't not do things that you promised to your constituents. Folks may not have a very long memory, but they sure as hell remember when they get screwed.
Yeah. Wow. This whole tax thing is really kind of,
yeah.
What a fizz in the bucket.
Oh yeah. So that's oof, big deal.
Yeah.
The bad thing is that if you go ahead and you pump this up to make it sound like you're gonna go ahead and break a news story that's gonna open the firewall and be the undoing, and then it doesn't turn out to being something. I think she might have just found Al Capone's vaults.
No shit. No shit. No
Yep,
shit. All
sitting
right.
there with a couple of empty beer bottles.
That's kind of funny that you mentioned him. I was thinking about him in the exorcism thing that he used to do.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, not long after the Al Capone vault, he had some sort of like live exorcism on TV, and then he did that thing with the KKK and I don't know what they were, some black church,
and the nose breaky.
the nose breaking. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. So yeah, it's one of those things. In the next couple weeks, I'll be hitting the house hunt searches pretty hard online. One thing that pissed me off is, God damn it, people, when you scam on Craigslist, at least make it somewhat believable. If you're going to waste people's time, don't just like put up a stock photo of some house in the middle of Kansas, because we don't have grasslands here. We don't have cornfields out the yin
Yeah,
yang.
put some effort into it. They do the same thing with cars. I mean, nobody believes that there's a 2014 Toyota Tacoma for like $1,800.
$2,000. And you know what? I'm the angry old man, because I'm like, get off my Craigslist, because I will go ahead and prohibit those. I flags them.
You're a flag-it.
Yep, I am. That just pisses me off, because when I was looking for a new truck, or just something that had four-wheel drive.
I don't even look at Craigslist unless I search for something by keyword. If not, I don't just cruise Craigslist anymore. It's just especially in my area. Dude, there's like 400 lawnmower repair ads on Craigslist, like in a row. It's like, fuck, quit reminding me about mowing lawns, man. I really hate mowing lawns. I hate mowing the lawn. I absolutely hate that.
Well, you know what? In Trump's America, you may not have the Mexicans who don't want to do. Or
he's sending all the Mexicans back. America's going to have to mow its own lawns again.
That's
Jesus Christ.
Pick our own lettuce and mow our own lawns and do our own landscaping.
Salads are now $75 a piece.
Yep. We got to charge you extra for tomatoes. Well, you know what? I think this was a really quick show for us, man. Gosh, just for the sheer fact that, I think for all intents and purposes, it was a really quiet week on guns.
Gun news, yeah. So I mean, at that point, it's kind of up to us to go out and do something. And I've got a couple of plans for here in the future. I want to do I actually want to make a couple of actual videos and somehow like linking through UCY and all that. But I want to compare some 32 automatics and kind of like take them apart and show what they look like on the inside. Maybe like pop off a couple of rounds and comparison test. And I got to put my hands on a Kimber Micro 9 today, and it's very, very, very similar to a SIG 938, which is near and dear to my heart. And a good friend of mine has one of those, so I'd maybe like to do a comparison video. I mean, they were close enough to. I actually got to take two of them today, and they were close enough to where I could swap magazines from the SIG into the Kimber. And it was, but you had to press the magazine release to let it go in, to let it allow to slide. You couldn't just jam it in; it wouldn't go in. But if you hit the magazine, it would slide in. And it locked once it was in, and boy, they're close. Everybody, that's it. That's the news. UCY.TV, giving you what you don't get anywhere else. Everybody, stick around. There's plenty of good radio coming up. If you got a few bucks, throw them Jules' way. She puts it out for us. Jules, thank you very much. You are a queen. Everybody, thank you. And my chat people, I love you. I will see you soon. Everybody, take care.
Later.